All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Will everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the presentation of colors from our ROTC, Junior ROTC. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join us in a moment of silence as we reflect on those serving the United States Armed Forces, both past and present, the elected leaders of the state of Pennsylvania, and the elected leaders of our nation. We have much to be thankful for in our community. Thank you. And you may post colors.
Color guard. Holden. Post. Colors. Right. Base. Forward. March.
Should I do this up front, Brian? Or do it right here before that? Okay. All right, executive session announcement 3.1. The board met on the following dates in executive session, discuss items in one or more of the following categories, personnel or legal matters, and that was March 21st, 2022. And a board workshop was held on April 4th, 2022. And with that, I'll turn it over to our superintendent for the superintendent and student report. Dr. Stout.
Okay. Sarah, I'm going to turn it over to you first for the student council report.
Yeah. All right. Good evening, everyone. Hope you all had a spring break. There's no better way to get back from spring break than going to a school board meeting. So thanks for having me today. Anyways, starting in the elementary schools. The elementary schools have been preparing for the upcoming PSSA tests, which begin the week of April 25th. Students in grades 3 through 6 will demonstrate their learning in English, language arts, and math. Additionally, students in 4th grade will complete the science test. Finally, all the elementary schools have started the process of registering next year's kindergarten students and will host a variety of activities between now and the start of next school year to welcome our new Wildcats. At the middle school, 4 middle school students were recently recognized for their participation in the 2022 Takedown Tobacco Meme Contest sponsored by the Chester County Tobacco Free Coalition. Congratulations to Cora Wallison for winning 1st place, Zoe Weber for winning 2nd place, Theo Heim for winning 3rd place, and to Harrison Minford for taking the honorable mention. Their memes will be turned into posters that will be displayed in the middle school building. Congratulations also to all of the Odyssey of the Mind students who recently competed at Lock Haven University for the Pennsylvania State Finals Creative Problem Solving Competition. Oh, that was a mouthful. All three of the groups competed and excelled in all facets of the contest, earning 2nd place honors at the tournament, and as a result, they have been invited to participate in the national championship competition in May at Iowa State University. Best of luck to all of the team and the coaches. On April 8th and 9th, many of our middle school students performed two sold-out shows in our musical production of The Wizard of Oz. Great job to all the students and the faculty advisors for a wonderful performance. Another shout out to 4 middle school students who received recognition at the Delaware Valley Science Fair. Carl Wallison, Rachel Ott, Christopher Strawbridge, and Soham Bandyopadhyay. Additional congratulations to Cora and Soham, whose work also earned them an invite to the Broadcom Masters. Finally, middle school students are excited to attend their first school dance in 2 years on April 22nd. Eighth grade students are looking forward to their farewell dance on June 3rd. Finally, in the high school band just returned from an outstanding trip to Orlando, where the marching band performed at a Disney parade and the jazz band performed at Universal Studios. It was a great return to a trip that had become a tradition but was unable to happen for the last 2 years. Great job to all performers and congratulations to all the staff as well. As we transition back from spring break, there are a number of exciting events on the horizon, including the art show, Farm Day, the spring play and prom. Tickets, I think, are on sale until tomorrow, so if you are buying tickets, buy it tonight. And also, most importantly and most excitingly, AP and IB exams are also coming up, so good luck to all students. We're looking forward to closing out the fourth quarter with lots of opportunities for our students to showcase their talents, and that's all for me today.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Unlike you, I was looking forward to coming back from spring break to a school board meeting tonight. Actually, when I left State College yesterday, there were 3 inches of snow, so actually I was looking forward to getting back here. So on tonight's agenda, we'll be recognizing our teachers for National Teacher Appreciation Week, which is going to be May 2nd through the 6th, and students who participated in the Delaware Valley Science Fair and several retirements. But we want to start first with Dr. Heidi Lehman, who is here with us tonight, our Science and Technology Curriculum Coordinator, who will be recognizing our students who participated in the Delaware Valley Science Fair. So Dr. Lehman.
Good evening. I'd like to ask all the principals already here, principals in front. I'd like to give you just a brief background on where these students have been and what they've been through. If you can recall back to October 2021, November, maybe we don't want to remember that time period, but back in October, our students started creating a research plan. They used a framework to help solve a problem, to hypothetically put together a plan that they potentially could carry out the experiment. If they so chose to carry out the experiment, they were invited to participate in the school science fair. So in January, across our district, at all of the elementary schools, our students participated in building science fairs. Each building was able to recognize 5 students per grade level, so 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. So 15 students from each building could move on to the next level of competition. Our middle school has grades 7 and 8, and our high school has grades 9 through 12. So again, same rule, 5 per building. We had 76 students go to Chester County. That was in March, in the March window. Of the 76 students, 36 of them won an award, some kind of an award, either a first or second place ribbon or a environmental, pharmaceutical, physics, etc. award. From those 36, 11 were invited to go to the Delaware Valley, which is the regional. So here's a time period in October, November, where there's a lot going on. So in addition to their schoolwork, our students chose to work the extra work and do the experiment and share their research, share their results, not only with their peers, but the school, with the county, and with the region. And I'm happy to say that 2 students from the middle school were invited to go to Broadcom Masters, which is the national science fair. So we're very pleased. We thank the families for all the support that you've given the students. That, again, I can't emphasize enough, this period that we've been through, to have this many students recognized, we're very, very pleased. I have the principals with me tonight. I'm going to introduce Dr. Todd Oswell, and we'll begin with East Coventry.
Thank you, Dr. Lehman. Good evening, school board. Good evening, community. Along with the 2 recipients from East Coventry, I also have our advisor for the student or the science research competition, and that is 5th grade teacher, Miss Keely White. So without further ado, I'd like to recognize 2 students. One of those students is joining us virtually, and the other we do have in person. So At this point, we will call up Miss Emily King from East Coventry. Come up for your certificate. And we also have online Fiona Rosenkrantz. So these are the two students from East Coventry who completed at the Delaware Valley Science Research Competition. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Brad Bentman from North Coventry.
So good evening, School Board of Directors. Thanks for having us this evening. We're recognizing in North Coventry 2 students, Michaela Stabley, in recognition for receiving second place in Consumer Science in the Dave Jarvie Life Science Award at the Chester County Science Research Center, and advancing to the Delaware Valley Science Fair. So Michaela, come on up. Next, we have Lila Wilkes. Lila, in recognition for receiving first place in the middle school microbiology at the Chester County Science Award Fair and receiving honorable mention in middle school microbiology and the Delaware Valley Science Fair. Congratulations, Lila. Come on up. Mr. Zerger, our science fair coordinator, couldn't be here this evening, but he definitely gives his regards to these 2 wonderful, wonderful students. Give him a round of applause.
Dave Jarvie was a middle school science teacher here. I don't know how many of you remember. So it hasn't happened often to have one of our own students receive an award that one of our prior teachers was recognized for. It's a big honor. So just wanted to mention that. From the middle school, we have Mrs. Jennifer Brinson.
Good evening. We're very pleased at the middle school to have 4 students to be recognized tonight. One of our young men, Soham Bandiopadhyay. How close did I come? Yeah? Okay, 8 out of 10. All right. So Soham was recognized for receiving first place in middle school Medicine and Health, Outstanding Project in Medicine and Health at the Chester County Science Research Competition, and then third place in Middle School Medicine and Health at the Delaware Valley, which qualifies him to go to the, get an invitation to the Broadcom Masters Competition on the national level. Congratulations, kiddo. Next, we have Rachel Ott. Rachel's receiving recognition for a second place finish in middle school environmental science, an outstanding project in environmental science special award at the Chester County competition, and receiving certification in the societal tribiologists and lubrication engineers at the Delaware Valley Science Fair. Congratulations, Rachel. Well done. The next certificate is going to Adit Shah. Is Adit here? Okay. He received second place in the middle school computer science competition and advanced to the Delaware Valley Science Fair. Chris Strawbridge, is Chris here? There he is. Chris receives recognition for first place in middle school mathematics and second place best of division middle school at the Chester County Research Competition for receiving honorable mention in middle school mathematics at the Delaware Valley Science Fair. And last but not least, Cora Wellison. Is Cora here? Oh, there's Cora. In recognition for receiving second place in middle school botany and in the Chester County Science Research Competition and receiving an invitation to Broadcom Masters Competition at the national level as well. Congratulations, Cora.
Mr. Steve Kohler is here from the high school to recognize the high school recipients.
Good evening. So this evening, we have two high school students that we want to recognize. Unfortunately, neither of them are here with us this evening, so we'll present them with their certificates tomorrow in school, but we wanted to recognize them. So the first is for 10th grade student Josh Zhang in recognition for receiving first place in the 10th grade computer science at the Chester County Science Research Competition and advancing to the Delaware Valley Science Fair. And our second student is 12th grade student Ashley Hawk in recognition for receiving first place in 12th grade environmental science and first place best of division for seniors at the Chester County Science Research Competition, and for receiving honorable mention for 12th grade environmental science at the Delaware Valley Science Fair. So congratulations to both of those students, and as I noted, we will give them their certificates in school tomorrow. Thank you.
So Dr. Lehman, thank you for being here this evening. Principals, thank you for being here. And most importantly, I know some of our students and parents have left, but thank you very much and congratulations. So tonight we have seven, now's a good time for you to go if you'd like to leave. I'd also like to recognize we have seven retirees that are going to be retiring at the end of this school year, and I believe we only have one in person tonight. So the first person, and the one who's here, is Mr. Thomas Barr, math teacher at the high school. And Tom has written, rewritten, and modernized our math topics course throughout his 4 decades at Owen J. Roberts High School. He has taught real-life math to generations of students, including skills like doing taxes and understanding mortgages, budgets, and loans. Tom is a graduate of OJR and played football at Penn State University, where he was part of the 1982 national championship team. Tom coached football at OJR from 1984 through 2014. The majority of that time was spent as the head coach. He has coached track and field at OJR from 1983 through 2000, and then again from 2006 to present. Until I read this, I did not realize that Tom was the co-chair when I was in high school and came over here and played football. So I did not know that. But on a personal note, I want to say this about Tom, and obviously I'm in my first year and did not get to know him well, but my first day when I spoke to the high school staff, Tom made a point to come up and have a conversation with me at the end because he knew I was coming here from State College, and I've always thought about that, really appreciated just his kindness as the new guy coming in, that he took the time to come up and engage in a conversation with me, and I think that's just indicative of the type of guy he is. And 30, how many years here, Tom, did I say? 30, or I didn't see it here, is it 37? It'll be 39. 39 years teaching in our school district. So Tom, thank you very much for your service. So some other folks that are retiring who I do not believe are in attendance, nor Mr. San Francisco, we don't have anyone online either, do we? But I will read a short blurb about each one of these retirees. So we have David Frayne, who's a security officer. Officer Dave Frayne joined OJR School District Security Department in 2016. Prior to that, he served 15 years as the corrections officer at Montgomery County Prison. Before his time as a corrections officer, he worked as a press operator for Alcoa for 22 years. Dave plans to retire to spend more time with his wife, children, and grandchildren. Next, Laura Frank, the MTSS coordinator at the middle school. Laura has taught for 25 years, 23 of which have been at the OJR Middle School. She taught ELA for 19 years, spent 3 years as our academic coach, and served as our building's MTSS coordinator this year. Laura and her husband, Steve, have 2 children and 1 grandchild. Deb Harvey, reading specialist at the high school. Deb has taught for 30 years, with 24 at Owen J. Roberts. Deb is the department chairperson for special education, and a special education teacher, and a reading specialist. Deb is a team player who was always willing to assist other teachers and administrators, a leader among her peers, taking on tasks critical to student success. She has always led by example and mentored fellow teachers. Her experience, kindness, and student focus will be hard to replace. Deb is a pleasure to work with, and when asked to describe Deb in one word, this is what happened. Trustworthy, supportive, reliable, kind, professional, friendly, indispensable, patient, thoughtful, welcoming, admirable, world-class, warm-hearted, sincere, caring, genuine, fair, committed, understanding, and accommodating. And again, the comments that I've heard from our high school administration is that Deb is going to be sorely missed in that role. Next, we have Benita Holden, secretary at the high school. She's the longest tenured member of the office staff and has shared her knowledge and experience with new staff, including the principals. And all of us that have been school-level administrators know who runs the building, and it is the secretary. Always endeavoring to keep things running smoothly while those new team members came up to speed. During her time in the main office, she had modernized many tasks and procedures while also providing historical context for her peers. She has been responsible for most office tasks at some point, but has recently been responsible for payroll, grading and report cards, student of the month, purchasing deposits, and much more. She was a vital part of the senior awards team and brought therapy dogs into the high school for the first time. Next, we have Gloria Houseman, math teacher at the high school. Gloria came to OJR as a second career applicant, bringing her computer programming degree and knowledge with her. She brought both AP computer science courses to OJR and partnered with Mike Fritz to create the popular game design course. She also started the coding crew and the Computer Science Honor Society. Finally, she has brought a number of coding teams to compete in hackathons over the years. She has facilitated girls' STEM involvement by organizing teams to participate in girls' coding competitions. Next, we have Jody Razor, professional at West Vincent Elementary School. Jody began her career with the Owen J. Roberts School District in 2004, working as a substitute paraprofessional. Then in 2006, Jody accepted a permanent position with French Creek. Jody eventually found herself at West Vincent Elementary in 2008 when the building was first opened and has worked there ever since in 5th and 6th grade instructional support. Jody is a very hard worker who comes to work every day with the determination to make a positive impact. Jody possesses many attributes that contribute to her success as a paraprofessional. She is patient, kind, loyal, and most importantly, a strong advocate for her students. Jody struggled with her decision to retire, but knows that it is time to step away from her work family so that she can spend time with her aging parents as well as her 2 grandchildren. So congratulations to those 7 retirees from our school district. And Mr. President, one round of applause for them all. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Stout. Before we move on to public comment, I have one request for the board. I'm going to request the board make a motion to amend agenda items 7.8 and 13.9, which are related to the 22-23 budget and tax resolution approvals. So the board will consider the final budget tax, proposed tax resolution at the June 20th, 22 school board meeting, as opposed to the May 17th. So can I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Hermanos, second.
Second.
Ms. DiMarino, any opposed? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I'm also going to ask that we're going to remove item 13.2. Just we're not considering that. It's no longer being requested. So, do I have to motion that, Brian? Or
I would make a motion.
can I get a motion to remove item 13.2?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Marino, second. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Just one note, the reason for the amendment to the item 7.8 and 13.9 was just to assure compliance with the school code. And the reason for the removal of the resolution was that it is no longer of any relevance because of subsequent events.
All right. With that, we're going to go on to 5.1, which is public comment. This is information, proposal, statements from individuals or delegations pertaining to items on the agenda. Speakers are to indicate your name, township of residence, and the items on the agenda which your comments are addressed. Speakers are not limited to more than 3 minutes. Please understand this is not a time for dialogue with the board. Rather, the board will listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. Also, if you have a question for the school board, you can email the school board directors at schoolboardmembers@ojr.net. If you're online, and just use the raise hand feature, and we'll recognize you in order. Thank you.
Hey, Heather McCreary, East Coventry. So are you guys voting on 13.10 tonight? Yes, on the proposed budget, but not the items that go with it?
So it's changing the date that the final budget
Okay,
resolution will
okay.
be. So it'll be on the June 20th
Okay.
instead of the May 17th. And that's just to meet the 30-day requirement for the school code.
Okay. I thought that was maybe because you're going to consider some of the things we've been saying to you guys. So that's what I want to talk about first is 13.10. And I'm going to say it's one of the most complicated areas about being on the school board. But some of us have been asking a lot of questions, and we have brought up some areas. Some of those questions have not been answered fully, and I'm sure other people still have questions, whether they've come out or not. I just think that it's a big deal with the budget, and about 25% of our residents are over the age of 60. So while the increase may not affect many of you, it does affect a lot of people. And it's actually been increasing over time. And there's a limited amount of people here that you can pull from. I know somebody who's a realtor who told me the other week there's only 11 houses for sale on Owen J. Roberts. So I think at some point there needs to be some kind of giving back for what you guys giving to us, what people are giving to you, and that includes some of the topics we've been talking about, including and especially me the past couple meetings, which are, if you're going to do the taxes and put the increases in, you shouldn't be not aligning the credits that you're requiring for graduation to what the state requires. You should not be requiring more credits by kids and having kids pay to take credits to get ahead to take the academics. So I've talked about that a lot, but it's not been addressed, and it's throughout the budget. It's in the staffing recommendations, it's in the summer school staffing, it's everywhere through this budget. If you're going to consider late start, why are you doing the traffic study? That's like a waste of time and money because you're going to need to do it again. So pretty much now late start is a given at every district around the entire country except for here. So that might be something to think about to save some money. Other people may not be paying attention to this, but there's been no approval of the REA contract yet. So to me, that should be approved before the final labor costs in the budget are approved. There's some other things in here that I kind of didn't notice before, but back to the focusing on academics, which again goes to the budget, 13.10, also to staffing recommendations, the requirement of the actual fact that this board needs to focus on academics, and we seem to have the athletics taken care of, but not the academics. Because I actually want to talk real quick before my time is up on 13.6, ratification of approval of conference attendance. I noticed in here that we have 2 math teachers going to the AP Institute.
That would be time.
But we don't have anybody going to learn about AP Capstone.
Thank you for your comments. That's 3 minutes.
All right, I'll revisit this at the end of my talking. Thank you.
Hi, Mandy Cooper, East Vincent Township. I'm speaking to a few items. The first one is 13.14. And I'm just hoping that I can, maybe during board discussion or when you reach this agenda item, you can give some clarity around this. So it's tuition agreement for non-resident enrollment. So when I was reading through the agenda, this took me by surprise because if they're not a resident, they're not paying taxes and that money is not coming to the school district. But I do see the word tuition there. So what type of tuition are these families paying? Is it covering the cost of the student? If it's not, is there additional funding coming from anywhere? And then additionally, I'd be curious to know how many non-residents are in our school district attending our schools whose families are not living in our school district paying taxes. So maybe I'm misinterpreting that completely incorrectly, but if I could get some clarity around that at some point, that would be great. The next items are, I'm not sure which one to reference, 13.8, .9, and .10. So it has to do with the budget. So the way I understand it is you guys aren't actually approving anything until June, if I'm not mistaken. But I am hearing through the grapevine that there's a tax increase coming to the residents. And I just think that, I just don't understand that, because with people coming off hardships of the COVID lockdowns, record inflation happening right now, and then you're going to tack on increasing our local taxes. I mean, come on, this is a community. You guys are supposed to be, you're elected by the community to make the right decisions for the community. I don't know, it's just kind of a no-brainer to me. But further, I would like to understand in plain English, short and sweet, what is the percentage tax hike and what is the dollar amount, both the percent and the dollar amount that is being instituted? And why? What is it paying for? Because I hear through the grapevine about a capital budget, there being capital projects happening. I don't know, are they urgent? Can we hold off till people get back on their feet in this community? And then lastly, with the tax increase vote, I do request that it is a roll call vote, because I want to know what each and every one of you are voting for with the tax increase. And I hope you'll discuss this further during board discussion tonight and or when you get to these agenda items. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, we have two online comments. First one is Dawn Sweeney. Dawn, please give your full name, township of residence, and agenda item you are speaking about.
Hi, Dawn Sweeney, Warwick Township, agenda item 12 or 13. Regarding the health and PE credits that have been determined to be in excess of the state requirements, how much are these extra and unnecessary health and PE credits costing the district as far as teacher salaries, plus their health insurance and pension costs? What would be the savings to the budget if our health and PE requirements align to what the state requires? How much would be saved on the budget? Even approximately, would it be $125,000 or $750,000? How many extra and unnecessary health and PE teachers are we paying for? Have any of you considered this, and do you know the cost of this to the budget? An important thing to note is that students who the excess health and PE credit impacts the most is special ed students who have 2 to 5 learning support class periods a week, as well as life skills for some. The excess health and PE credits really exclude special ed students from having an equal opportunity to take electives compared to the general ed students. And that really sounds discriminatory and not equitable and unnecessary considering the state requirement. The excess health and PE credits have been mentioned during the last couple of meetings over the last couple of months by students and community members, but I haven't heard anyone from the board address this, especially the impact of this on the budget or the adverse effect on all students, but especially the discriminatory effect on special ed students. Our special ed students should have the same opportunities to take art, music, language electives, etc., as general ed students do. Please consider the unwarranted cost to the budget and the impact and burden to all students these excess health and PE credits have on opportunities to take elective, but more so on special ed students who already have less opportunity to take electives, and eliminate the excess health and PE credit before voting on the current budget. Thank you.
The next person is Dana Phone. Dana, please give your full name, township of residence, and agenda item you are addressing.
Hi, good evening. Congratulations to all the retirees, by the way. Thanks for your many years of service to the district, and well done, Dr. Stout, for those comments on each of the retirees. I wanted to speak to 13.10, the budget, and I did comment on this at the last working session with regard to looking at the budget, and given the inflationary environment that we're in, and adding on to that a tax increase. I felt that it was important for the school board to go back and do some sort of prioritization exercise to really look at the discretionary items and take a hard look at those and, figure out or think through and prioritize, what are things that are just nice to have and what are the must-haves. And as I looked at the actual numbers in the budget and comparing the capital projects fund budget from the forecast that was put out last year to the budget for this year, it's a 61% increase in that capital funds budget. That seems pretty significant to me. Some of the drivers of that are, we're no longer, let's say, smoothing out some of those energy savings projects. They're all front loaded into the 2022-23 year. There are some things that weren't budgeted, like another $500,000 for the district service center conversion, some things related, the weight room, things along those lines. So just kind of reiterating the message from the last meeting that I hope you'll take a serious look at the budget and look at specifically at the capital funds projects and think about how we tie these projects to our district goals and ask yourselves, what's the academic return on these investments? I think that's the exercise that needs to happen, not only this year, but moving forward. Like I said, we have district goals. We should have measurable outcomes. How do these projects move the needle on those goals that we have, and as well as tying it into the comprehensive plan that's in the works. My last comment is about, I'm going to hone in on the STEAM initiative, which I'm really excited about. But my question is, and again, maybe this will come up in discussion, the head of curriculum stated that they needed 3 full-time employees to make that program work for the coming year as the pilot year. But we're moving ahead with 5. So I'm just questioning if the head of curriculum says this is, and gave a really good answer for why we're going to split this up, bringing in 3 resources next year and 2 the following year, why we're actually bringing in 5. And again, that's another hit to the budget for the coming year. So that's just actually a question. And hopefully that will be discussed at some point, maybe tonight or at the next working session. Just really want to focus on fiscal responsibility.
That's time. Thank you for your comments.
Brooks Rowland, Warwick Township. I want to discuss about the budget. A significant amount of our community does not have children in the school. A significant amount of people are on a fixed income. I just want to go on the record for them stating, a lot of us who are working, we might see pay increases year in and year out, but it truly impacts those individuals that don't see that increase to the retirement income or they're on a fixed income. We're seeing 8.5%. I think they're reporting 8.5% inflation now. We see fuel, food, everything else going up. My children's education is obviously my number 1 priority, but we have to understand as we make decisions as a community, we have to look at the community as a whole. We don't want to push out these lifelong residents because they can't afford to live in our community because they can't afford to pay the taxes. I understand that increases are necessary. They can increase in goods, costs, services, everything is going up. But if we can take an honest look at what we're doing and figure out if are there some things we can delay. I know we had talked about some of those capital projects for the updates and those things. And I was talking with some people. I mean, I understand we're renovating a school and we're going to save money there, but are there certain things that if we were to push it off, when we're not paying an increased rate in labor, increased rate in materials, that we could save some money? My biggest concern is that, we've had people who've lived here their entire life. And I don't think it's fair to them to get pushed out because they're getting taxed at such a high rate that they can't maintain it on their fixed income. Thank you.
That's the end of public comment.
Thank you, everybody, for your public comment. Item 6, a working session was held on April 4th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And the following committees met at this time: curriculum instruction, finance, building and grounds. I'm also going to ask our board committee reports if the committee members could update the public on and give us, and we'll start with 6.2 is Chester County Intermediate Unit. John?
Actually, that one's
Or is that
still
you?
me.
Still
Yeah,
you, Jen?
he's
Sorry.
legislative. I'm on the
You're
CCIU
legislative,
board.
okay.
It's okay.
My bad.
So the intermediate unit board has not met since our last school board meeting, but I did want to draw everyone's attention to the items on the school agenda or our agenda tonight. 13.11 is the approval of the CCIU core services and occupational education budget. It does list how that affects the money going from OJR to the CCIU. And you'll note that the core services budget is staying the same. For the occupational education budget, it is decreasing, but that is more driven by student enrollment. In other words, the number of students from OJR who choose to go to the technical college high school. So that's really what's driving the decrease there. I believe there is a tiny increase in the cost per student, but we will be seeing a decrease because of an expected decrease in attendance. So if anybody has follow-up questions, we can address it then. The next meeting for the CCIU board is tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Thank you.
Over to curriculum, special education.
Good evening, everybody. The curriculum committee met as part of the working session on April 4th. There were 2 items on the agenda. Dr. Marchini and the special education supervisors reviewed the state's special education monitoring report. The audit occurs every 3 years and involves hundreds of documents. The supervisors share the recommended changes and the training that they have planned to address a few of the errors mentioned in the report. Dr. Soder shared the state data that is available on the PA Future Ready Index website. The site lists achievement data for each school for PSSA and Keystones. As a result of not having any testing in 2020, there is less data on the site. Some schools do not have any Keystone scores because fewer than 11 students tested in any given year by subject. Dr. Soder showed the number of students testing for the 2021 data for literature, biology, and Algebra 1. There will be changes in the data related to the number of students testing for the next 5 years. Since the number of students testing is not listed on the site, it is difficult to compare scores from different schools. Beginning in January, several proposed textbooks have been shared with the curriculum committee and have been available at the curriculum office. These texts are included in tonight's agenda for board consideration. The next curriculum meeting is scheduled as part of the working session on Monday, May 9th at 6 p.m. The committee will have presentations about the following, and we have quite a list. We have mathematics revision and everyday math, the high school health and phys ed program, an update on the elementary STEAM program, and the state special education plan. So we hope you guys can come out and have some discussion. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Finance, Building, and Grounds Committee, Mr. Manos.
The Finance, Building, and Grounds Committee met on part of the March 28th committee meeting and during the April 4th working session. Topics discussed there were budget review items, which will comprise of items 13.8 through 13.10 tonight, which will be voted for approval on June 20th as amended earlier. We also discussed 2 other items that are in 13.7 today. One was the agreement with the Transportation Advisory Services to perform a transportation study. And the second item was the bus patrol program, which will provide a school bus stop arm enforcement program. That's where we put the cameras on the buses, and violators of the bus stop arm will be reported to the local authorities. We're looking for we're recommending this program as long as that it's pending legal review here. And that's all.
Over to L&P, Mr. Dougherty.
Legislative and Policy Committee met as a standalone committee meeting on March 28th, during which time we reviewed a number of policies to be amended and a number of policies for deletion, which are on the agendas items 7.9 and 7.10 tonight. And that concludes my report.
Personnel Committee.
The Personnel Committee has not met since the last board meeting, but I would like to say that contract negotiations with the REA are ongoing, and I think we would all agree it has been a positive process so far.
All right, moving on to 7, recommended routine matters. Looking for a motion to approve recommended routine matters, items 7.2 through 7.11 with 7.8 as amended. Can I
So
get a
moved.
motion? Mr. Marino? Ms. Sabo, second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, routine matters, 8.1, acknowledgement, receipt of donations, contributions, and gifts. Giant food stores, Giant feeding school programs, $4,008.86. On Monday, April 4th, Michael Clays, our local store manager, Lou Mandrak, assistant store manager, presented the district with a check for the $4,008 that was raised from Feeding School Kids program. During this program, every time you shopped at Giant, you were given the opportunity to round up your total at the register and donate to your odd change to the district's food programs. In addition to the shopper contributions at times throughout the program, Giant also matched those roundup donations. Also, thank you to the famous Bucktown Boosters, $3,000 for football team towards new jerseys for the 2022. Motion to, do I need a motion for that, Jack? Yeah, okay. Can I get a motion to acknowledge receipt of those donations?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Junior, second. Any discussion?
I just have a question about this.
Sure.
I'm curious about this $4,000. Like, where does this money go? What do we use this for?
I'm happy to respond, Mrs. DiMarino. We actually retain those funds so that we help the food insecure families, so that when we go back to charging for school lunches, we do have students who are reduced or some families that may struggle. So that's what we use those funds for.
Do we have funds already that we've received from Giant?
We received $13,000 last year, so this is not as much as what we received last
Right.
year, but we were in the height of COVID. And that actually was deposited into the food pantry account. Do you remember when we were
Yeah.
delivering food and all of those things? So that's where the funds.
Okay, so
the
this
funds
is
went.
waiting to be
This is
used.
waiting because we're not charging for lunches this year.
Okay.
And we just received the check, so we're just
Right.
holding on to it for next school year.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval of routine matters 9.1, motion to approve routine matters 9.2 through 9.5. Asking the board to make a motion to approve those items. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Hermanos.
Second.
Ms. Sabo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Item 10, board discussion. Just before we go dive into the board discussion, I was just wondering, since we did have a couple questions, I know tuition came up as a thing, and I know that's a common thing, and maybe we could easily explain what that is. Jackie, if you would do it.
Sure,
okay,
I'd be
yeah.
happy to do so. The tuition agreements are for families who are actually building houses, and they start construction in the middle of the school year. So what we do is we engage in a tuition agreement with them where they agree to pay us tuition in the event that they do not finish construction or do not move into their home, because obviously they're non-resident right now. So that's
Right, so this allows
construction tuition
that
agreement.
allows a student to come, who's
To come
coming,
to O.J. Roberts,
moving
right.
into the district
Right.
to do the entire school year, then come mid-year or something like that.
Correct.
And I would just add, Mr. Friel, that that's covered under our board policy 202, eligibility of non-resident students. So it really outlines that entire process. There's also a provision there, if a student is in our district and leaves after April 1, that they can remain for the rest of the school year. So again, that's all in policy 202 for anyone that wants to take a look at that.
Yeah. And then, go ahead.
That was me. Did you want to go?
No, go ahead.
There was a question raised tonight about the exact percentage of the tax increase. Could you tell us what that is?
Sure. The tax increase is 1.98% proposed for 22-23. The Act 1 index right now for next year is 3.4%. So we are well below the Act 1 index.
So even though we're still well below that, I mean, granted, I am sensitive to a lot of the comment tonight about the fact that we have residents on fixed incomes. Any tax increase in light of everything that's going on could present a real burden for people. So could you speak to, if we were to, is that our bare minimum in terms of a tax increase goes? Is there other things that we could look at, as people have brought up tonight, to, I don't want to cut programs, but is that what we're talking about if, we need to reduce the tax increase further?
I can comment on two things off the top of my head. Right now, the budget is not balanced because we suspended the transfer last year of 1 mil, which is about $2.3 million from the general fund to the capital fund. So we're reinstating that this year. So therefore, we reserved that and designated it in fund balance from 2021 because that's the year that we didn't budget for. And then we're moving that over to balance the budget. The remaining tax increase impact is about $2.9 million. So $2.9 million is the net impact of the 1.98% tax increase. In order to not have that tax increase, under the direction of the board, we would be looking at a reduction of programs and services. So we are competitively procuring things to the best of our abilities. The procurement issues and the price increases are impacting us as well. So we are trying very hard to minimize the tax increase in order to retain the programs and services that we're offering.
Yeah, and could you also speak a little bit further about, just to clarify, how we're funding the capital projects that are included in the budget?
Sure. There's a board policy that we're reinstating, which requires 1 mil, MILL, of real estate taxes annually to be transferred over to the capital fund. So the capital projects fund is a separate fund from the general operating fund, which is the annual operations of the district. And that budget gets zeroed out annually, and then we fund the next year's operations. The capital projects are funded by that annual transfer, so there's no net impact there. The annual transfer that goes from the general operating fund to the capital fund. And then we have proactively done a few things in order to make sure that there's capacity there, that there's no cost to the taxpayers with respect to tax impact. So we were able to refund debt obligations pre-COVID, right before COVID, and reduce our long-term debt payments so that then the difference was used to fund some of the things that are actually in our board goals for the year. For example, the Giza project. And we actually accelerated that in order to take advantage of pricing because we're deferring capital that it's going to be extremely expensive in the next year or two. So we were able to lock in pricing for that, and that was a board goal, as well as the district service center. So we were able to replenish the fund with $10 million of long-term debt with no impact to the taxpayers because we did that in conjunction with refinancing debt. So that is how the capital projects fund is funded.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, in the simplest of terms, the restructuring of the debt, funding the capital projects is not included in the 1.9% tax increase.
Correct, absolutely.
Okay.
It is not. It is not.
Yeah, just to add some color to that too, because, in the previous board, we did exactly what some folks suggested here, which was we delayed the capital. So if you remember a few years ago, we did a big feasibility study of what is needed at L&J as we're planning capital going forward. And then right before COVID hit, and we were worried about, well, what could this impact be? And we were also worried about, the Act 1 index was becoming inflationary. What's the biggest things we can do to mitigate tax? So we just delayed those capital projects and said, let's not do them for exactly the reasons some folks in the public brought up. And then we were able to do that restructuring to fund those capital projects without impacting taxpayers. We also then did the Geezer's project, which what allowed us to do was lock in pricing, so we can't get price increases for the big projects, which, they're chillers on, they have to be replaced. So that those bills are coming whether we like them or not, to the buildings. They're older facilities, so the chillers and stuff that are $2 million projects, we were able to lock in pricing, pre-COVID pricing, and so we have not gotten an increase in the pricing because of the way we locked that in moving forward. So that allowed us to sort of mitigate the impact of that taxes last year. So now we're at the point of it's either cut programming, or this is kind of where we are. The biggest drivers of cost in the last couple of years have been the cyber charter and charter school payments have gone up, and then the unfunded mandates. If you look at our budget growth in areas that are uncontrollable, that are kind of pushed on us, that's where that's coming from.
Can I ask one more question just about the capital budget that I just want to make sure I understand? So we did not move the 1 mil in what was 2021 budget, and now we are proposing to move the mil as normal. But are we also retroactively moving money? So there was a comment about the capital reserve budget like being increased by 60% or whatever, or and I'm wondering, are we actually just moving 1 mil, or are we moving 1 mil plus the 1 mil we missed in the past? Or close to it?
I'm hoping I'm understanding your question correctly. We are just reinstating the funding that was missed, right? So, and we're doing that to balance the budget.
Right.
So for example, we put in the budget, we reinstated the transfer, which is per board's policy, they waived it in the prior year. So we reinstated that, but in order to balance the budget, we have to pull some money from fund balance in order to do it. It smooths itself out now that it's actually in the budget in the next year, which would be 23-24.
So what will the capital budget be? What will our reserve be, like at when that 1 mil is in that account?
If you look, you have to look at the capital projects budget, but it has to be a 5-year plan by PDE, and our goal is to retain at least $5 million in it.
Right.
So we're not building gigantic reserves by any means. We're actually moderately funding it, trying not to impact taxes in any way in order to maintain our facilities, maintain our technology, and do some of the things that the board had planned several years ago.
So if we continue with the library project, that fund will still have money in it. We're not going to bleed that out.
Correct, right. After
Yeah.
the 5-year period, we're probably down to 5 million. But it's a rolling, it's a capital plan, so it's really a 5-year plan. So if something doesn't get done 1 year, it rolls to the next. Or we always obtain estimates too from our architects and our engineers if things need to be updated to consider price increases or whatever. And the other important thing to remember about the capital fund is that anytime we hire professionals to review, provide design, develop bid documents, we're receiving estimates from them up until the date we go out to bid. We can always take a look at those projects prior to going to bid. We could reduce the scope, or if we go out to bid and the prices are not what we like, we can reject the bid. So we still have a lot of flexibility to make sure we're being really responsible with those dollars.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I think we did that in the Geezer's program. We had bid out a bunch more work, and then we chose not to do some of those projects and all that. And just to be clear, it's that 61% that Dana was referencing, that it wasn't, that is because we just deferred it. We're not really up 61%. We're just back to the original point. We're not really up. Yeah, we're not really up.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Could I just ask another question? So there was another comment about the budget presented prior to the finalization of the REA contract. So considering those negotiations are still ongoing, is there a potential for that to severely impact what we're looking at here tonight?
We don't, budgets are projections.
Right.
And we always work to stay within our budget projections. I have never had that impact a budget that was approved in the 23 years that I've been here. We're very cautious about that. So, and in the end, the board votes on the contract. So,
And the date of the budget is state mandated. right?
Absolutely.
So just, we're required to
that's a
submit.
very
It's
good
not like
point.
we can wait. We can't choose to wait until the RA contract's done. We must submit to the state at a certain date certain.
correct. And we're slated for June 20th now, and June 30th is the deadline by PDE.
So I would also say that, I'm concerned about the overall trend year over year. We can't just look at the budget of this year. We need to look at what are we forecasting out for the next several years. And when I look at those projections, it appears to me that the local sources of taxes are taking a higher and higher percentage of the burden of the overall budget over the years, because it looks like there is not a significant increase projected at the state or the federal level. And in fact, it looks like there's a decrease projected at the federal level.
And there lies our largest challenge, being a rural Pennsylvania school district. We are primarily funded by local taxes, so I definitely understand the concern, which is why we're very careful about it. But the state level of funding, now federal will be going down because the ESSER's money, that's why you're seeing a decrease in federal, right?
But specifically
Because that money,
ESSER's?
that cliff ends next year.
Right.
So we're making sure that when the budget projections that are in the budget, that we're going out 3 more years at least. And I think I provided you with 4. So we're trying to make sure that whatever we're proposing is sustainable and well under any projected index.
Right, so given, the observations that Paul was making about the largest increases that we've seen over the past several years are things that are mandated by the state, such as the way that charter school tuitions are paid out of our budget, and this lack of increase to accommodate for that at the state level. I know I am intending to go lobby my state representatives. There is a day set up for Pennsylvania school board members to do that next Monday, actually.
And that's great. Those are the unfunded mandates that we
Yeah,
talk about sometimes.
that's really where I see, for me personally, I think that seems like a much more effective tack for me to take as a school board member than to look at like a $20,000 expenditure here or a $50,000 there. That I think we need to attack those bigger problems at the state capitol.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and it's one other thing I just want to let everybody know, because I think Brooks is the one that brought up the seniors that are on fixed income here, which, that is a problem. We have folks on a fixed income, and we did pass a senior tax credit in the last board, which allows senior citizens to apply for the program, the rent rebate program. That's we kind of piggybacked on an already state program to try to mitigate any tax increase for those on a fixed income, those seniors over 60. But that's detail is out on the website, and that was passed in the last board too, as we were trying to, again, mitigate for this as well. So.
I'm going to put Jackie on the spot just one more time. Obviously the 1.98 it's significant to some, not everyone, but some people that's very significant. If we as the board were to ask you, can we chip away any more of it? Can we get it down to 1 or 1.5? Where would you start to look?
I think we'd have to do that collectively, right? I don't think it's just Jackie Crumrine,
Right,
CFO,
sure.
saying these are the areas you should consider cutting. It would really be, we would need to work as a team and with Dr. Stout and our administrators, our community, because we have done years of freezing budgets, and there's been a long time. I mean, since 2008 was the first time when the market crashed, and we were kind of in dire straits. So we were, we have looked at the budget critically for many years. That's not to say we shouldn't always look at it critically. We do, but I do think we're at the part in time where we have to look at programs and services in order to make a significant dent, if that's the will of the board.
Well, I guess that's my question then to the board members. Are we comfortable with one? I mean, obviously, we're going to vote on this next month, but do we want to consider reduction of anything significant in order to take this burden off our taxpayers? Just something
And
to
was
think about.
that was 2.9 million that we would have
Yeah.
to come up? Was that the right number?
Well, there's 2.9 million is the local tax revenue impact, right? Because there has been some growth in the tax base. But remember, we're also not balanced, even with that tax increase. So we were trying to mitigate that tax increase and keep it under 2%, which is why we're utilizing fund balance of an additional 2.4 million to balance the budget.
If we were going to try to balance this budget, we'd be over 3.5, like 3.4% if we
Yeah,
follow Act
this- I
1. It'd
mean-
be about 3.4%. So we're already kind of pulled all the tricks out of the hat to get it down under 2. Now you have to cut programs. Now you got to say, hey, we don't want band. We're not going to do after-school sports. We want to cut these programs. This is where we're at. So, you know,
And
I'm
we're
not sure.
also very high on class size, correct? Obviously, I really think that that's where our money's going. It's going to teacher salaries and benefits, and would we want to reduce teachers and have larger class sizes? That would probably be one of the things that saves a lot of money. I'm not really into that myself, but I think that's sometimes where we are with this type of thing.
Yeah, I think we're out of options here to do that. I mean, we're a school district, and I think our primary responsibility is to provide a good product, and we're going to try to do that in the most fiscally responsible way. And I think we have. I mean, this school district has a very long history of being a conservative fiscal district and planning well for the future. The school districts that get in trouble are the ones who have done some tricks, let's get it down low, and then they get hit with 5% or a big cut, or they have to go borrow $30 million to go build a project because then they're saddled with debt. Where O&J has been very diligent in how they've planned, and the policy reflects it, capital projects, so we don't overburden taxpayers with debt and interest payments. So we've done a good job, over many, many years and many boards, kind of having that conservative fiscal approach. I think we should hold the line there and continue to be conservative in this regard, because you're going to pay for it down the line if we don't. So I'm going to recommend, and we should always evaluate where we can cut and be frugal, but I think we are there. Any other topics for discussion? All right, well, moving on to any old business?
None.
None, all right. New business, approval of personnel matters. Motion to approve personnel matters, consent items 12.2 to 12.12. Can I have a motion to approve those matters?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. 1, 2. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. New business. 13.1, approval of Teacher Appreciation Week resolution. Approval of Teacher Appreciation Week resolution as presented. Whereas America's greatest strength has always been in educated citizenry, and whereas that educated citizenry is directly attributable to our system of a free universal public education that provides an educational opportunity for all students, and the foundation upon which that system of public schooling rests is the classroom teacher. And whereas the classroom teacher is challenged daily to reach out to every student, regardless of ability, interest in learning, social or economic background, physical, mental, or emotional handicap, race, religion, creed, or ethnic origin, to provide the assistance and guidance necessary for full intellectual development. And as whereas the classroom teacher is a key to the intellectual and occupational preparation of individual citizens who collectively
determine the quality of life in America and in this community. And whereas the work of the classroom teacher deserves the deepest respect and admiration and the citizens of this community, now therefore be it resolved that May 3rd, 2022 be proclaimed Teacher Appreciation Day at the O&J Roberts School District for the purposes of providing public recognition and appreciation for the dedication and contribution of the classroom teacher, not only to this community as a whole, but to each of us as individual citizens. Adopted at the meeting of the School Board of Directors, O&J Roberts District, on this 19th day of April 2022. Do I need to motion? Can I get a motion to accept that resolution?
So moved.
Ms. DiMarino. Dr. Melnazak. Any discussion?
I know it just seems like a feel-good thing, but I really hope the teachers feel appreciated because we really do appreciate them.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, and I know that the local PTOs and things, they try to make sure that the teachers do get something special that day, but maybe the board, maybe we would like to consider doing something more than just saying aye to this proposal or this resolution in the future. I don't know what, but.
Ms. Steamer, I know proposes that we each adopt a teacher and substitute for them for the day.
I'm
No, I
not
think
sure
I
it's
oppose.
credentialed properly.
Something, I don't know. Just
First come, first
maybe
served.
something to discuss at a
No, I
later
think that's a
time.
great idea, actually. So I would love to see us do something more than, and I do, I think we do really appreciate, it's a hard job, and it's not always made easier by us and some things going outside of the buildings. So we do appreciate everything, all
If
the
showing up in the
teachers.
building probably is not the favorite choice,
Yeah.
pick something else.
We'll have maybe some further discussion on that. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.2 is removed. 13.3, resolution prioritizing mental health initiatives for children and youth, and I'm asking for the approval of resolution prioritizing mental health initiatives for children and youth as presented at the April 4th working session. So this was brought forth from them. Can I have an motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.4, approval to grant diplomas to the class of 2022. Approval to grant diplomas to the class of 22 as presented. Any discussion? No. We need a motion first. Should we give them diplomas?
So moved.
Ms. DiMarino is a yes.
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor to allow our kids to graduate in 2022?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.5, ratification approval of out-of-state overnight student trips. Ratification approval of the out-of-state student trips as presented. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. DiMarino. Dr. Melnazak. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Ratification and approval of conference attendance. Can I have a motion for the ratification and approval of attendance as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Romanos,
Second.
Ms. DiMarino. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the 2023 staffing recommendations. Approval of staffing recommendations for the 22-23 school year is presented. The staffing recommendations were the ones presented at the March 14th working session, and we acknowledge receipt at the March 21st school board meeting. So this is now the vote on those. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Approval of resolution authorizing notice of proposed final budget display and advertising. I have a motion to propose the final budget display and advertising.
So moved.
Mr. Manos.
Second.
Steve Marino. This side of the room's really working hard.
Keep moving.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval of proposed 2022 government and proprietary funds budget. Can I have a motion to approve the proposed? Oh, did I miss 13.9?
13.9.
Oh, I'm sorry. 13.9, approval of final budget notice. It's similar but different. Can we also have a motion for the approval of final budget notice?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
And seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval of proposed 2023 government and proprietary funds budget. Can I have a motion?
Didn't we, isn't that for the June 20th meeting?
Yeah, as amended.
Okay.
Yep, this will be moved, this will be on the June 20th meeting. So the only thing it did is change the May 17th date in that resolution to June 20th. But it's the same, resolution.
Right, Mr. Friel, I can clarify, we have to approve a proposed budget, and then 30 days is the wait, and then you approve a final budget.
So it's changing the date. It's the same resolution that's in the agenda. It's just changing date, May 17th to June 20th, but it's as proposed.
And the board is required to approve a proposed budget 30 days in advance of approving the final budget.
So this is a proposed budget.
And
I
then
just wanna
June, you're
clarify,
actually then
okay, right.
the
Like
final.
can changes be made in that window?
Yes,
Okay.
they can. Motion for the proposed budget. Approval.
Motion.
Motion, got a second?
Second.
Sabo, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 1311, approval of the 2023 Chester County Intermediate Unit Budget. Can I have
So
a-
moved.
Ms. Munson, second?
Second.
Mr. Manos, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.12, approval of student activity club advisors and student officers, and approval of the student activity club advisors and student officers in accordance with the provisions of Section 511 of the Pennsylvania School Code for the 21-22 school year as presented.
So moved.
Motion, second?
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 1313, looking for a motion to approve, or to establish a student activity. Looking for approval to establish a student activity club in accordance with the provisions of Section 511 of the Pennsylvania School Code and School Board Regulation 122A and/or 122B as presented. This approval also provides for the establishment of the accounts within the student activity accounting system when applicable. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Can we join?
I don't like to touch worms.
No fishing, no fishers? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Fish lookout. All right. 13.14, approval of tuition agreement for non-resident enrollment in accordance with policy 202, and approval of tuition agreement for non-resident enrollment for student A and student B in accordance with policy 202, pupils eligibility of non-resident students for the 21-22 school year as presented. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.15, approval of textbooks for the 22-23 school year. Approval of textbooks for the 22-23 school year is presented and approved by the Curriculum and Special Education Committee at the working session on January 3rd, February 7th, and March 14th. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Move, second?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 1316, awards of bids in accordance with the CCIU Joint Purchasing Agreement. Approval of award of bids of the following items is presented based on the notification of the Joint Purchasing Board in accord with the Chester County Joint Purchasing Agreement as presented. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Munson, can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Daugherty, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 1317, ratification approval of professional services maintenance agreements. Looking for a motion for the approval of the professional service maintenance agreements as presented. Have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
And seconded. Any discussion?
I'd just like to emphasize that I think the district needs to really publicize the beginning of this bus patrol program to the public so that they're aware that we'll be doing this and they're not surprised.
Yeah, I think, that's probably a good thing to do. And also maybe we'll talk about it a little bit in board discussion and at the next working session too or something. Yeah.
And also a clarification for the Transportation Advisory Services agreement, is that limited to evaluating traffic only at current school start times?
No, it's not.
So we wouldn't have to redo it if we were to move the school start times?
This is an efficiency. This is not the traffic study per se. This is the transportation routing study.
Okay,
So
thank
it's
you.
looking at efficient routing. And they're flexible enough within our agreement that they'll review that, considering any changes that the board might want to make. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 14.1, public comment. Information proposal statements from individuals, delegations pertaining to any item. Speakers, please indicate your name, township or residence. Speakers are limited to not more than 3 minutes. And please understand, this is not a time for dialogue with the board. Rather, the board will listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. Also, if you have a question for the school board, please email school board directors at schoolboardmembers@ojrsd.net, and you can receive a written response. And then if you would like to online, please use the raise hand function. And it's specific to the budget, just if you do want to give a specific budget question, if you want to copy Ms. Crumrine as well, and she can give you a more articulate answer quicker. Thank you.
I'm John Barnett, West Vincent Township. I'm a member of statewide Power Interfaith. Our group has been working to increase state school funding for years and to lessen our dependence on property taxes. So one of the most important activities happening now in Pennsylvania that can affect Owen J. Roberts School District is the discussion and the negotiations going on now about the way we pay for our K through 12 education. That's the issue I'm bringing to you tonight. So I hope it's helpful. Often when I come to the board meetings, I remember, Dr. Stout, one of your first meetings, you defined the word equity in a way that I can't forget. It was that we have every student's back. Every student, we have their back. And it's a great definition of equity. Well, equity is a word that's used a lot when we talk about school funding in the state of Pennsylvania. So for almost 7 years now, the state of Pennsylvania has really cheated Owen J. Roberts School District out of $1 million each year, every year, in basic education funding. 7 years ago, a bipartisan commission unanimously created and voted on a fix to the way that we, in our state, distribute sales tax and income tax statewide to the 500 school districts. We in Pennsylvania finally joined 46 other states 7 years ago in having a rational, student-based formula for distributing state funds to the school district. Unfortunately, the General Assembly imposed a doctrine that prevented the full use of the fair funding formula to be used. Because of that, O&J Roberts misses out on a bunch of money every year. Most school districts have to make up the gap in what they need versus what the state provides by raising property taxes. For instance, when Phyllis, my wife, and I moved a few blocks from Downingtown School District to O&J Roberts, our property taxes went up substantially. O&J Roberts, Downingtown School District receives just about the right amount of money that the state fair funding formula says they should receive. O&J Roberts does not. So this is not a partisan issue either. The person that led the commission to create the fair funding formula is Senator Pat Brown, one of the longest standing Republican chairpeople in the Senate in the state of Pennsylvania. He's currently the chairperson of the State Appropriations Committee. He said that the fair funding formula is based on equity, fairness, and sustainability. There's that word again, equity. Lastly, I'll say that Lisa Boscola, a senator, has proposed.
That would be time. Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, Nick Rotoli, West Vincent. I just wanted to take a moment and commend the board and administration for following the science in your responses during the COVID epidemic. You know, it's so easy to look back to March of 2019 and now say what we should have done or shouldn't have done, like washing every piece of mail, packages, and groceries that were brought into our homes, washing our hands 20 times a day, not hugging people, etc. You guys really can't expect it to be profits. And there's a very clear correlation between COVID deaths in countries that have taken safety precautions seriously and vaccinated versus those who have not and have not had access to vaccines and proper health care. I liken it to, by analogy, imagine that you're a parent of young children and you hear a rumor that there may be a predator in your community. You may talk to your children about stranger danger, look suspiciously at unfamiliar faces in the area, keep your children indoors, drive your children everywhere, pay more attention to the local news, whatever. Your kids would probably think that you're overreacting, but you're actually acting out of an abundance of caution in unknown circumstances. We've been fortunate to have never faced a pandemic like this one before. So I want to thank you for following the science and keeping your eye on keeping our students, staff, and community safe, even that if it meant that there were more precautions taken than we believe that were necessary now in hindsight, which is always 20/20. Thank you.
Brooks Rowan, Warwick Township. Can't speak better than this man did with the more eloquently about the funding. So, reason I'm up here is I hear a lot of rumors kind of talk about this late start. I know that was a topic of doing the studies and everything with the buses delaying the start times for the high school students, and then it just got kind of has an effect on all the kids. Based on my understanding, the information that came out is my perception is that would adversely impact our younger children that are in elementary school and with their after school sports and stuff like that, actually getting them to bed later. And my opinion is, as these high school students are completing high school, we're supposed to be preparing them for the real world. There's days I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and if I go to bed late, I'm tired. That's just kind of the way the world works. So as you start to kind of dust this topic off to decide what you're going to do, because there has been talk around this table, what I ask Dr. Stout is that you don't just vote on it, right? It's been about 1.5 years, 2 years since any active engagement with the community has happened. Please represent that information to us as a community in a timely fashion so that we can evaluate what those delayed starts would look like, so parents can look at them and understand how they would in fact impact or not impact their specific children, their situations, if it impacts their childcare after school, before school, those kind of things. Please don't vote on it before you share it with the community and get out that plan and give everybody a chance to speak to it. So, thank you.
Hi, Mandy Cooper, East Vincent Township. I'm back up here about the budget. So thanks to those board members that spoke up, asked some questions, but I do think that there should be further discussion on it. It sounded like it was kind of put to bed, that there were no other options, and I think that you all just need to go back to the drawing board and figure out different ways. So Jennifer, you mentioned lobbying at the meeting you're going to. That's great. But you said that you thought that was better than cutting 20,000 here, 50,000 there. I think they're both good ideas. I think it's good to go back to the drawing board and see where some possible cuts could be made, and talk more about it. So I think they're both important ways to go about it. So running for school board means that you guys took this position to make tough decisions. So maybe some things do need to be cut. You know, it sucks, but that's the environment we're in. So in corporate America, where I work, and in my personal budget at home, I can't just go out to somebody and say, give me more money. I have to find places to cut the budget at my corporate job, where I'm an accountant, and in my personal life at home. You don't just go out and say, hey, boss, I need 1.9% increase. That's not the way it works. You go back to the drawing board, to your budget, and you figure out how to make it work. And if you have to make tough decisions, you have to make tough decisions. That's life. And I would hope that that's why you felt strong enough to be in the position you're in, and you're ready to make those decisions, should they need to be made. So I asked you to go back to the drawing board. And I would like to reiterate what I said earlier this evening, that in June, when you do make the final vote, I would really like to see a roll call vote, because whoever's voting yes to any increase, I want to know exactly, and the community should know exactly who is voting yes. Thank you.
Heather McCurry again, and same thing, the budget. If I understood this correctly, we need to come up with 2.9 million in revenue to eliminate possibly a tax increase. So I guess we could start with those excess health and PE teachers that I said before, we could repurpose them, but you were requiring kids to take 2.4 credits of health and PE when the state says 1. What is the justification for doing that? So now finally we have a quantifiable number on that. If you take one teacher at $100,000 times 5, that's $500,000, right? So now, because it seems that this school focuses more on athletics than academics, why don't we put in the pay-to-play that we've talked about numerous times, right? There's an idea. We've talked about it. Other schools do it. It's probably time, right? We had people public begging on all over social media about going to the OM Worlds competition in Iowa, which I love Iowa, closed there. But hey, yeah, that was really embarrassing what was going on. I think I heard, although I did not see it on the budget, that money was found to pay the registration fees for the teams. So there are things that you guys need to look at and do a little bit better for everybody. We've given you a lot of suggestions. There's actually ways you can do that. Spent the Easter weekend in Calvert County, Maryland. Happened to look at my niece's 10th grade school, and they actually write on their thing, Citizen Advocacy Committee. You guys have that in your policies right here. You could ask some of the people that talk to help you out to come up with ideas. Capital projects, I think somebody texted me this, 9.9 million for the next 4 years last year. This year's budget shows them at 22.4 million in capital projects. Why? Why do we need to repurpose a weight room for $100,000 and nets for $50,000 for batting cages? But we are literally, like, no focus on the academics. And my pathetic capstone request at $15,000. I'm going to send you guys a copy, because you probably didn't even look at it, what the actual AP Institute that you voted on tonight for the teachers to go to actually has a whole section on equity and about how to make sure that your programs are equitable and reaching all the kids. In a district that is privileged like this one, that really doesn't need that fair funding that people are talking about. In this district, it is ridiculous that the top AP capstone AP program is not offered to the students in this school when it would cost $15,000, 2019, to actually put that program in place. Thank you.
Julia Harthway from North Coventry. This is not a criticism, it's a perception. So I haven't studied your budget. I've read a few things here and there, and I listened to the presentations tonight. What I perceived all of you saying is that we don't get enough money, we have unfunded mandates that are extremely expensive, and we're going to have to raise taxes. And the alternative is, do we really want to look at cutting services? My impression is no one looked. Statistically, it would be highly unusual if all your services were cost-effective and running well. You want the community support, and I think you would get it from this community. You're going to have to do a much better job of explaining the trade-offs you're doing. You need to explain to the community those unfunded mandates. You need to explain the increases that you have to deal with, and you need to at least demonstrate that you've looked at and made an effort to cut and at least had a reasonable decision not to do so for the following reasons. But the impression now is that you didn't even look at those, that you're starting as a base, which is your budget last year, and how do you maintain that going forward as opposed to cutting. In all the positions I've been in, I've been asked to cut. And we've always been able to do it without a great deal of hardship. You just need to at least explain that or demonstrate it. If you do, I think you'd have the community behind you. But you've got to weigh some things and say, you know, we know this is more expensive, but we didn't want to cut it. We know this. You'll have the community behind you for that. But the way it appears is that you haven't done that. And I think that's damaging for you and for the community. It's just a suggestion.
The first person on Zoom is Joy Van Ruler. Joy, please give your name and township of residence.
I am voicing in to commend Kathy DiMarino on her desire to help with teacher appreciation. And as the chair of the Teacher Appreciation Week for the PTSA, I'm inviting each and every one of you to contact me if you are interested in helping out that week, personally or financially or food-wise. And I put that out to you. I believe you have my email, so please contact me. We would love to work with you.
Thank you. The next person is Carrie Culp. Carrie, please give your full name and township of residence.
Hi, this is Carrie Lesmanis from East Coventry Township, and I was just hoping that we might be able to receive an update tonight regarding the status of the discussions and decisions regarding the cyber and hybrid options for the district. As the end of the year fast approaches, as many of you are aware, those families that are hoping to pursue some of those options are starting to get a little bit nervous, as we know, going into the summer months that the guidance counselors, who very much deserve it, work on a very limited schedule over the summer, and we're starting to get a little bit nervous about implementing some of those options if they are to remain in effect. So if we could just receive some kind of an update regarding that, it would be good. Thank you.
The next person is Danielle. Danielle, please give your full name and township of residence.
Hi, Danielle Willauer, North Coventry. Over the past 10 years, our taxes have increased 26.5%. So while some might think that's conservative, it still does hit home for a lot of people. As another speaker said, when gas goes up, when food goes up, when my electricity bills goes up, I need to find ways to cut. I can't just say, I even asked my employer, can I have more money? But it's not always yes, because they have to cut too. And I think we owe it to our community to try to revisit that. I think every single one of you ran on fiscal responsibility, and now's the time to keep your campaign promises. Also, every meeting, charter schools sometimes get a bad rap because of the funding. Charter schools, for some families and students, work better than the brick and mortar school and then O&J Roberts. And it could be different reasons. It could be bullying. It could be special needs maybe are better for a student. It could be they didn't like masks or that they were afraid of COVID. 20% of that money that stays with O&J, and you don't have the enrollment numbers. So it's even less resources you have to use. I believe each student is worth $19,404. And if we can't make that work, it's actually mind-blowing to me. Considering too that you get to keep homeschool kids and private school kids' taxes, and you don't have the enrollment for that. So I think we owe better. We need to do better. We need to make sure our programs are running fiscally responsible, and also maybe reach out to some of the charter school parents. I can tell you, I pulled my two kids from O&J into a charter school, and not one person has contacted me as to why. Now, maybe they watch school board meetings and know that I don't like masks, but not one person did. And maybe you could recoup some of those funds. So thank you.
That's the end of Zoom comment. Mr. Friel.
Oh, I think we have one more public comment here.
Hi, Colleen Blute, North Coventry Township. I did not plan to speak. However, I have two questions. You received X amount of dollars from Giant, and it was stated that you used it for reduced lunches. I thought I was under the assumption that reduced lunches are covered by the state and federal government. Somebody stated that we use it for reduced lunches. I don't understand that. Reduced lunches should be coming from the state funds. Okay? That was my first question. And you don't need to answer it right away, Jackie. Okay?
It's okay. Reduced lunch means there's a reduced price to the student, so there are often balances left that they can't pay. The state pays a portion. The families are responsible for the balance, and so we help with that.
Okay,
With
got it.
donated funds.
Got it. Next question was with the high tax rate. I'm confused. You have a $2.9 million budget, and you're hiring STEAM teachers? There's no cut in the budget if you don't hire them. So there you're saving money. If you hire 3, at minimum 70,000, that's $210,000. 5 would be $350,000. That's a lot of money. And is it absolutely, positively necessary for this year? Cut the seniors a discount. They put a lot of their time and energy in the school district, and some of them are graduates, and some of them are getting very upset. And some of the teachers I work with are from O&J, and they said, how much is the tax increase? Maybe we'll start looking somewhere else. Think about it.
All right, thank you all for public comment. We're going to move on to board discussion. So any follow-up information for request or board discussion follow-up based on tonight's meeting?
We did pass that resolution tonight, correct? So, yeah, of course, correct. So we're going to the legislative breakfast on Friday. Could we have maybe something like a slam in someone's hand? And then we can,
Like an update?
well, the
or
resolution itself.
priorities?
After we pass the resolution, we mail it to our legislators, correct?
Correct.
Okay. They're going to be in the bacon line on Friday, right?
Okay, I got
So, so they, they can't get away.
Yeah. I'll make sure that you receive something signed.
Okay. Any other discussion points or questions from the board?
I'll just add, I know there was one comment about online and virtual learning, and we're continuing to work on that. We're engaged in conversations with our with REA, with our teacher leadership program, and we're trying to work out an MOU in order to be able to do that. But I think we're close. We are looking at that, and as soon as we know what that looks like, and we do plan to have a cyber program, we'll communicate that to families. We're just not there quite yet.
Okay, and we'll put that on the board and the working agenda as soon as there's an update from those discussions, because I do think, to Carrie's point, we got to get to something for families to make some decisions on how this is going to work, because it's going to be unfair to everybody if we don't have a solution in place soon. So as soon as we do, we'll put that on the next working agenda. That's after that's resolved.
It's that was a good point too about the exit interview of people that leave the district. So
I did make note of that. Those are conversations we need to have, determine why people left and what we can do to get them to come back. And again, I just think we offer a better program. So, and I know it's personal choice, and I think folks are entitled to that, but I think if you compare it, I think we offer a much better program and more robust programs than those other schools.
All right. All right, folks, then with that, thank you everybody for participation tonight. We're adjourned.